Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm Whitney Ward here at home while Mark Hanrahan is there at the KREM 2 studios this evening. Hi, Mark.
Hey, good evening, Whitney. Happy Monday to you. New tonight, Kootenai County has reported its first COVID-19 related death since the pandemic began. The man who died is in his 70s and had been hospitalized due to complications from COVID-19. As of today, there have been 88 deaths across the state of Idaho and more than 3,300 cases of the coronavirus. In Kootenai County, there have been 99 confirmed cases of the virus. It has been a little more than 3 weeks since Spokane County entered phase 2 of reopening, and as the county anxiously awaits to move on to phase 3, Spokane's health officer, Dr. Bob Lutz, says, "We're not ready yet." He says that's because of an uptick in cases. KREM 2's Amanda Rowley joins us live now with more on that. Amanda?
Spokane Regional Health Officer Dr. Bob Lutz says he will not support Spokane County moving on to phase 3 of reopening until he sees the numbers related to the coronavirus outbreak improve. Now, he says the number of cases has increased since Memorial Day weekend, which is when Spokane County reopened to phase 2. Now, as of this morning, he's reporting 40 new cases since Friday.
Spokane County reopened under Phase 2 guidelines Memorial Day weekend. Since then, residents have resumed the limited activities such as visiting with less than 5 people, eating out, and getting those much-needed haircuts. When Spokane County eventually moves to Phase 3 of reopening, people can begin to enjoy even more restrictions being lifted, like gatherings of 50 people or less, restaurants and taverns operating at 75% capacity, bars can open at 25% capacity, even theaters, libraries, and museums will reopen. But Health Officer Dr. Bob Lutz says the amount of coronavirus cases increased significantly since Memorial Day weekend, which is why right now he does not support moving forward to Phase 3 just yet.
So, for example, in 3 weeks, we've had at least 14 hospitalizations, and currently we have 9 individuals, 8 of whom are in the ICU. That's not a good sign for me.
There is also some evidence that suggests community spread is occurring in Spokane County.
Many of our outbreaks have been in worksite settings, and then because of cases in those work sites, we're seeing family members and close family members of those cases end up driving some of our numbers.
He is also concerned about the large amount of coronavirus cases now in young adults.
These are young people. These are young people who may not have a lot of symptoms. My concern still exists that people are taking the opening into phase 2 a little bit too liberally, and I think it reflects in our case counts.
Now, the state recommends counties should be testing a significant number of people, ideally to get a positive rate of either 2% or 50 tests per positive case. Now, Lutz acknowledges this is a difficult metric to meet, but he says Spokane is just not there yet. Amanda Rowley, KREM 2 News.
All right, Amanda, thank you very much. Let's take a look now at the latest coronavirus case numbers in Spokane County. As of this morning, Spokane Regional Health District reporting 842 coronavirus cases and no new deaths. This is an increase, as Amanda mentioned, of 40 cases since Friday. Dr. Lutz says there are a couple of areas of concern here. The number of young adults impacted. 300 of the 842 cases are of people ages 20 to 39 years old. Then there are hospitalizations. There have been at least 14 over the past 3 weeks. Dr. Lutz says 8 of the 9 people currently hospitalized are in the ICU. Lutz says there is data to suggest there is community spread in Spokane County. And Whitney, police are responding tonight to questions about use of force and higher numbers of arrests when it comes to black residents here in Spokane.
Hi, Mark. Yeah, there is the most recent data that shows African Americans here in the city of Spokane are up to 5 times more likely to be arrested than whites, for example. So I looked into that data specifically, and here's what I found. This is from the SPD's own use of force report from 2018. It shows that in both 2017 and 2018, about 10% of the department's total arrests were of black subjects. That's 677 African Americans arrested in 2017 and slightly up the next year to 712 African Americans arrested in 2018. And the reason this is so significant is because Spokane's population is only about 2% African American. That's compared to 77 or 78% of whites arrested, which is lower than Spokane's population, which is about 85% white. So I took those numbers to SPD today. I'm told the chief is concerned about it, and they're tackling it in a number of ways. First off is just digging deeper to figure out exactly what's going on, and part of that is understanding when and how often use of force is being used and who it's being used on. Now in this case, in 2018, of the 712 arrests of African Americans, officers resorted to use of force 15 times, which amounts to about 2%. You compare that to about 1.5% of whites being arrested. Number two, is it officer-initiated contact or was it calls for service? Now that's important because the department wants to know, are certain officers actually arresting blacks more often? And their system absolutely does look for that. Officers with high numbers of anything do get flagged for further review, but also, is the community calling the police on African Americans more often? And in this case, you can see that in 2018, 4 of the 15 instances of use of force were where the officer initiated contact with someone. The other 11 came from an outside call from someone else for an officer to respond. So that just provides a little more context to the overall numbers.
Hands out to your side, do it now!
And finally, all of this can be improved with the right training. Right now, SPD is in the process of in-service training for all of its officers. The department says it's especially timely right now because they'll be looking at what happened with George Floyd in Minneapolis to apply those lessons learned here in Spokane. Implicit bias training is also ongoing, where it acknowledges that we all have biases based on our life experiences, and this training just teaches officers how to acknowledge those and then make sure they're not letting those preconceived notions dictate their actions out in the field. And those trainings are mandatory for all SPD officers. So obviously this is a very complex issue, but in talking to the Spokane Police Department today, they said they are absolutely committed to improving these numbers and to finding solutions now more than ever. In other news tonight, a Washington man has gotten more than 1.5 million signatures in 1 week to have the Ku Klux Klan declared as a terrorist organization. So his name is Jose Cardenas. He's out of the Tri-Cities. He created this petition writing that the KKK has a long history of murder and intimidation of people based on color and religion. Now, the Patriot Act currently defines domestic terrorism as involving, quote, acts dangerous to human life that are a violation of the criminal laws of the United States or of any state. Right now, the federal government, though, reserves the label of terrorism for foreign groups. All right, only a few days until the official calendar date for the start of summer, but boy, it does not feel anything like summer. Although I am thinking that Tom Sherry is going to tell us things will be turning around sometime this week. So please, Tom, give us some good news.
Yeah, well, we got another cool day tomorrow and a wet day. But as we get closer to the summer solstice, which you just referred to, and of course, that's this Saturday. And of course, Sunday is Father's Day. It gets fabulous. So yeah, we're going to start seeing better weather arrive by about Wednesday, and then near normal temperatures Thursday, then above normal temperatures as we continue into that big, important weekend. Take a look at the Doppler radar. Rain, that's what we're seeing across areas of eastern Washington and northern Idaho. The heaviest rain now looks like it is mostly in northern Idaho around St. Mary's. We had some heavy rain just east of Coeur d'Alene on I-90. Temperature-wise, my gosh, we're only in the upper 50s. We almost set a record high-low temperature, meaning the coolest for the daytime high. We got up to 57 degrees today, and the record was 55, set back in 1912, long time ago. 46, the expected overnight low, should get into the low 60s tomorrow. Here's the good news for the weekend. The summer solstice on Saturday, 80 degrees, and for dear old Dad, we've got beautiful summer weather for him to enjoy the hammock and a cool lemonade. 83, the expected high temperature. We'll take a look at the rest of your 7-day forecast coming up in a few minutes. Whitney?
All right, Tom, thank you very much. There is a neighborhood in Seattle that is getting a ton of national attention tonight. It is now being called CHOP.
This is not no party.
This is not no party.
They are still killing our people in the streets.
They are still killing our people in the streets.
So when we come back, we're going to take a look inside the Capitol Hill organized protest and what protesters are now refocusing their message to when we come back.